I'm Janice Mattingly, and for my Friday video this week, I'm here with Rebecca Gill. And Rebecca is a financial advisor that I refer clients to regularly to review not only any assets that they currently have, but that they may be getting in a divorce, and asking her to help, sometimes even help me to know which assets should be divided which way. Rebecca, can you introduce yourselves for...
Sure.
Introduce yourself for us, please.
Thank you, Janice. Yes, I'm Rebecca Gill, and I'm with DunlapGill Wealth Management Group. We are in Fishers, but we're right on the edge of Fishers and Noblesville, 141st and 37. We are planning-based financial advisors and wealth coaches. So what we do is we start with a plan, and then from there we develop an investment strategy that's appropriate for our client. And we're independent. We use LPL Financial, so we're not captive by products. We're able to truly look at each client's needs and goals, and we take on a fiduciary capacity when we are managing their investments to strive to reach their goals for the longer term.
And as I said in my introduction, I've referred people to you to review a settlement agreement or to propose division after we do a marital estate summary. Can you tell the court, see how I usually in front of a judge?
Just naturally.
But can you tell us a little bit about what you start to do, or what you do
Okay.
for divorcing clients?
Yes, so it's always best if we can take a look before the divorce happens, so that, like while it's in process, before it's final, I should say, so that we can make some recommendations out how to best divide the assets from a tax perspective, and just looking at both spouses' incomes and needs and putting together a master plan. So that's ideal. It doesn't always happen that way. One thing that I like to advise everyone, and unfortunately it seems to lean towards the women and female clientele that I have, but I have some men that need to pay attention to this too. But never in your marriage or partnership should you allow one spouse to have everything titled in their name, have all the credit cards, and not have anything in your name. And that's primarily because it doesn't have anything to do with who gets the assets because of the laws in Indiana, but it's because of building credit. Because one of the problems that we have after a divorce with some of the spouses who haven't been the primary income earners is they don't have any credit, and therefore they have a hard time getting financed for a home.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, so even if they have assets, they may not necessarily want to use all those assets to buy a home. They would rather finance a portion of it. Typically we want to put a big amount down, but that if they can't get financed because they have no credit and they're just getting back into the workforce, so they don't have an earnings history, it becomes challenging.
Is there any advice other than to start it? Do you need to start at 6 months, a year? How long?
Usually I would say a year. They like to see some history. Especially within employment and earnings, but if you at least have some credit built up, that helps for sure.
Does a co-signer on a mortgage, so like if you have a joint mortgage,
that would help?
count?
Yes,
Okay.
Credit cards in your name that are being paid off, obviously.
Right. You want to keep that credit score high.
Yes,
Yeah.
Monitor your credit score and make
Okay.
sure that you're keeping a good credit score.
Good. Talk to us a little bit about IRAs and 401ks and when you can take those out and what tax or penalty.
Yes, these are
issues
great
are.
questions. Typically, it's after 59 and a half that you can access those penalty free. In the case of a divorce, they have an opportunity through the QDRO or Quadro. It's different pronunciations. So basically, one of the spouses will take a portion of the 401k through this order. At that time, you have the ability to take out a withdrawal penalty free. It's always going to be taxed, so you always have to factor in the tax. So what happens is it separates from the spouse who owns the 401k, separates from that employer, and moves to the other spouse and goes to an IRA in their name. So from the time that it separates and prior to the deposit into the IRA, they have an opportunity to take a distribution without penalty. Once it's in the IRA, it becomes subject to penalty if you're under 59 and a half. So it's very important to do that plan
Yes.
and know if you're going to need a distribution to help maybe with a down payment on a house from that 401k prior to depositing it into the IRA.
And once it's deposited into the IRA, it's self-directed. Then
Yes,
they get to pick
that's
up.
right. It's theirs to manage and take and build and hopefully grow for their retirement. I mean, that's the idea behind that they're splitting their retirement funds. These monies were for future retirement for them as a couple. So now that they're dividing, each of them takes a portion of that. Hopefully, it will continue to grow for their retirement because it's so hard to replace.
That's a lot of what I see is I mean, there are those people who have a lot of savings and a lot of investment income, but most of the times what we see are people they put all their money in their IRAs, 401ks, their retirement plans, and then what you're saying is, and then you have to look at the whole plan to see how much you want to take out, how much you want to keep back in.
Right. Yes.
And when you were working with peoples of different age group, does that obviously have some effect on
It can, certainly. The younger with still, elementary age children, a lot of times there's a bigger need up front for that distribution. And so very important to do that planning before everything is settled and done so that you've looked at the tax implications and most efficient way to get the liquid assets that you need in order to provide.
And then post-dissolution, we need to address those. If somebody comes in and they've gotten their award and they haven't done this pre-planning and maybe they've already gotten everything divided into their IRA.
Right. Sure. It's very important, specifically so for the spouse who has the 401k and the IRA and all of that it's coming from, we need to sit down with them and make sure that they change their beneficiaries.
Yes.
Because that can get overlooked. That's something that doesn't happen through the process of divorce and any of the accounts that you might have separately where beneficiaries are named, you want to review those regularly, make sure that they're updated because those cannot be argued.
Those cannot be argued. We have, that's a whole interesting.
It's very important.
It's very
so,
important.
And then the other aspect we look at is life insurance, and typically, that's addressed as far as a need. If one of them needs to have life insurance on hand for the spouse during a support time period, make sure that's in order. Otherwise, if they have life insurance that is theirs free to take, then they obviously update the beneficiaries on that too. So we just kind of take a look at everything that's left in the end and how things are titled and beneficiaries that are attached.
Have you also provided some advice to people post-dissolution as far as buying a house, how much money they should spend on a house, and kind of look at budgeting a little bit too?
Yes, I usually recommend. Typically they don't like my recommendation, but I'm very realistic with what their finances can afford, and my goal is to help them preserve their retirement money. Because I know how expensive it is to retire. I've been doing this long enough. I've done enough projections. I know the numbers, and I know how hard it is to replace money that's been accumulated. So my main focus is to preserve that and live within our means here on the income that we're making. So sometimes that's not as high of a standard of living as maybe they had, and it's a little bit of
it's a little bit hard to
coaching
accept.
to bring that expectation down.
And I do think when I'm speaking to when I'm representing then what I call the non-moneyed spouse, and their lifestyle is going to change. I mean, there's just no way around it. But that is a hard pill to swallow. But
it is.
But you can't compound the problem by overspending and then having nothing later. And so that's why, again, I really appreciate your expertise and your advice.
Absolutely.
On those things.
And even as you would say, the primary income earner, their lifestyle is going to change too, because they still have, typically, if we're talking about with children, there's support to pay, there's expenses still here to pay, so they're, yes.
Yeah.
So it's different for both parties for sure. Yeah. They both need to do a financial plan.
Great.
Coming out of that divorce.
Great. Well, Rebecca, thank you. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. If you have any questions, call me at Janice Mattingly, 317-815-0340, or you can find me at www.carmelfamilylaw.com. Rebecca, what's your contact information?
DunlapGill.com is our website, and our phone number is 317-770-2266.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.